Our 10th inventor is Ruth Handler, and she conceived the Barbie and Ken doll line of toys. In addition, she was also considered a co-founder with her husband Elliot and his business partner Harold Matt Matson of the very successful toy company Mattel. However, she never filed a patent but instead received a registered trademark for the name Barbie, registration number 0689055, issued on December 1st, 1959. Her trademark record can be found at www.uspto.gov. This shows that not every invention is patented, though Handler could have received at least a design patent, should it have been applied for. However, it is also interesting that Ruth Handler's name is not mentioned once in the trademark documents, since Mattel owned the mark. Nevertheless, let's take a big step back and learn a little more about Ruth Handler's life. She was born November 4th, 1916 in Denver, Colorado, and her parents were Jewish immigrants, Jacob Joseph Moskow, née Moskowitz, and Ida Rubenstein. Ruth's father was a blacksmith, and in 1907 her parents traveled as steerage to relocate from Poland to the United States. Ruth had 9 other siblings, and she was the youngest. Several years after Ruth's family arrived in the States, her father purchased a drugstore, and Ruth worked there as a teenager. In 1934, Ruth moved to Hollywood, California, and her boyfriend, Isidore Elliott Handler, joined her. Yet, Ruth was already employed by Paramount Studios as a secretary. However, Ruth and Elliott, as he was always known, soon returned to Denver, where Ruth attended the University of Denver for 2 years, 1935 and 1936. Ruth and Elliott were married in 1938 and had 2 children, Barbara and Kenneth. However, the Handler family eventually moved to California, where Elliott attended the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. In addition, Ruth continued her secretarial job at Paramount. In 1941, Ruth left her steady employment and began helping her husband, who was designing furniture and household items from the new acrylic plastics, lucite, and plexiglass. A company named Elzac was formed, and the name came from the first names of Elliot and the business partner Zachary. Eventually, they added costume jewelry, and Ruth acted as the company's marketing department. Elzac eventually generated $2 million yearly in sales revenues, and within a few years, the Handlers sold their share of the organization. By 1945, the Handlers started yet another business, and this one manufactured picture frames. However, Ruth, Elliott, and Harold Matt Matson soon formed Mattel Creations and began manufacturing furniture for dollhouses. The company's name came from Matt and the first 2 letters of Elliott. Ruth ran the marketing department, and the company had a sales revenue of $100,000 in just the first year. Other toys were the next step, and they manufactured a Yucadoodle ukulele, a musical jack-in-the-box, and a burp gum cap pistol. Sales really took off in 1955 when Mattel began advertising on the Mickey Mouse Club. Eventually, Ruth made a decision that most of Mattel's male staff opposed. She wanted to make a doll that looked like an adult woman, and this would not be a flat-chested figure, which had been the norm. Ruth thought the girls would be better off role-playing with a doll that would look more like they would become at 16 or 17. When Ruth and her 2 kids, Barbara, Joyce, and Kenneth Robert, visited Europe in 1956, Ruth saw the German Biel Lily doll, which was actually an adult gag gift and not a toy. Ruth thought that this doll represented what she was trying to achieve and arranged to have her own design constructed when she returned home. However, the Ruth design was not so provocative as the German counterpart, though feminists would not agree. Interestingly, this caused problems for years. Ruth called the doll Barbie, and the toy was introduced March 9, 1959 at the American Toy Fair in New York. Handler named the 11.5-inch tall blonde doll after her daughter, and thus began the custom of naming Mattel dolls after family members. The doll had a stylish wardrobe purchased separately that was regularly improved, and they sold an amazing 350,000 dolls in the first year. In addition, as styles changed, the clothes and eventually other items changed as well. In 1961, Mattel added Ken, named after Barbara's brother, who was touted as Barbara's boyfriend, and both Barbie and Ken became the best-selling toys ever made. Eventually, over $1 billion were sold in over 150 countries. They included a variety of lifestyles, along with many matching accessories. In fact, the occupations and avocations represented were babysitter, paleontologist, athlete, astronaut, physician, policewoman. In addition, the toy company produced offspring and created dolls in several nationalities or ethnic groups: Asian, Native American, African American. Yet the National Organization for Women continued to feel that Barbie gave girls misguided goals, whether for their careers or their own physical development. However, in spite of this activism, the dolls figuratively flew off the shelves. In the first photo, we see Ruth Handler with some of her dolls. Mattel also produced the very popular Chatty Cathy, the first talking doll, in 1960, and Ruth became Mattel's president in 1967. However, the company started taking on too many enterprises: theme park, a publishing house, a pet products manufacturer and distributor, a circus, and a motion picture company, and sales began to decline. In 1974, the Handlers had to leave Mattel over possible accounting irregularities. By 1978, Ruth Handler and 4 other people were indicted for mail fraud, conspiracy, and false reporting to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Ruth pleaded no contest and was given a fine and 5 years of community service. Earlier, Ruth Handler had been diagnosed with breast cancer and had a mastectomy in 1970. However, she could not find a satisfactory prosthetic breast and founded a new business, Nearly Me, in 1976. There was at least one patent regarding the artificial breast, but Ruth was not the inventor. However, the patent was assigned to Handler's company, Ruthton, that made the Nearly Me prosthesis. Handler supposedly would go around promoting the prosthetic breast and would reportedly open her blouse to show an interviewer the appliance's appearance. She apparently also asked if the interviewer could tell which breast was real or not. Ruth directed Nearly Me mastectomy products related to Ruthton until it was sold to Spenco Medical Corporation in 1991. Ruth Handler died April 27, 2002 in Los Angeles at 85, and she is buried at Hillside Memorial Park in Culver City, California. The next photo shows what was placed on her gravestone. There is no doubt that Ruth Handler's life had been an interesting one. She had invented and promoted toys, directed successful companies. Mattel eventually reached $300 million in revenues, and employed over 18,000 people, and created the concept of an important medical product. However, cancer was indeed her enemy, and she died from surgical complications to remove growths from her colon. Yet the dolls survive her, and this is certainly quite an amazing legacy after all.